Okay. 6 votes, 7 of us. Let's call this meeting to order. Okay, welcome everyone. Here we are. It's Tuesday, March 10th, and we're here for a meeting of the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. If we could all please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I'm the President of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'd like to take just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, first thing on our agenda is to approve our minutes, and does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes? I believe there may be some, so we're not just going
I'm trying to find out which day.
consent agenda.
Which was it? Which day was it?
Yes.
There's one correction to note on March 3rd regarding FV3. For note that in the minutes it said removal of FV3, but the intent was Tyson's motion, I believe, was to rezone a portion of ag land near the monastery to FV3. Is that correct?
Okay.
And then I believe on that same day, I was noted as saying nay, and I said yay.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sorry about that.
That's okay.
It was Aaron.
I was the neighbor. Then I got it wrong. Okay.
That's okay.
That was perform-based.
Yeah,
Yes.
and last week, I thought we ended on FB3 and that we were gonna continue with FB3, finish that off this week and next week. I don't know.
We can move that around if we want to, but I think we also want to get the general plan first and the maps and take care of that first, and then some of those underlying things, and then we'll make sure we do that before we do any of our others, because it's the code.
Okay.
Back there, no?
Yeah, just,
We got.
I feel like it's, you get momentum on some of these, you wanna finish it off.
Absolutely.
Goal line, if you put it aside and forget about it,
Again.
So.
Yeah. Hey. So we, somehow we don't have the general plan listed here. We need to approve the final corrections that were made after last week's meeting.
Thought we approved it with.
We approved it with the conditions. Did everybody have a chance to look at that?
I did,
And if it's,
but also Brian, I made a bunch of little comments this afternoon. Did you get any of them?
In the general plan document?
Yeah.
So is Corbin there? Corbin, can we, if we need to be able to review the comments, review the corrections, can we do that today, even though it's not on the agenda? We had approved it with the corrections made, but the corrections made require a little bit more discussion, I think.
If we didn't notice it up, then no, we can't make any substantive changes to what you did on it. So if you want to continue to make edits to it, we would need to put it back on the agenda.
Can we discuss it at all and decide it? I think the biggest piece.
Some of mine were more just grammatical things,
Okay,
I don't know,
but
I don't really
If
remember.
they're non-substantive, then it's probably okay. If they're substantive changes, then that's something we would have to.
Yeah, so the discussion that Corbin and I had was on last week, the resource management, section 9 in resource management. when Brian gave us the red line copy, he had all of that red lined out. And it surprised people, they didn't really understand why that was all red lined out. And he explained that this was a requirement for the county only and not a requirement for the city. But there were some comments by members of the commission that said they liked some of the language that was there. Brian's recommendation was that we go ahead and just take that out as you had it last week. Brian, as you had that out, that we go ahead and take that out because it only applies to the county and address it further in the next round. And
No, I don't think so. I thought we decided to put it back in.
Exactly.
well, if we put it back in, then we have to go back to the drawing board because there's a lot here that doesn't make sense. If you read through it, some of it doesn't make sense, some of it's redundant, some of it Brian said we don't have authority to address because it's state law that is applied to the county only and not to us. So if we're going to put it back in, it can't go back in. It doesn't make sense to have it go back in total because it really makes many things contradictory. So we would need to go through that. And so if people feel strongly about that, then we're going to need to bring the general plan back one more time, which will mean it can't go to public hearing. Right, Corbin?
That is correct.
Early public hearing when we push it out of our committee.
Correct.
Okay, so it means another week.
What's that?
Just what Fred said.
But how do you?
It would take another week.
Yeah, I'm good with that myself to get that, I think, very meaningful chapter back in, and I thought that's what we agreed to last week.
I'm good to let it go another week because there were a couple things that I can't pull it up. I don't have internet, but
Oh, and we have a link that to it that Brian sent to us.
yeah, and I can't.
Okay.
So
So I guess, we do, but yes, and I jumped into this before, okay. Let's finish this and then I'll go back and give. Okay, then I suppose we need, a motion. If somebody wants to make a motion that we bring this back, Brian?
Well, you can't take any action. on it
Yeah,
because
it's not noticed.
Oh, we'll just notice it next time, okay.
So, yeah, just move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, going back to the minutes, who made those corrections, are we okay with the corrections that were made? That you guys, any
To the
other
meeting
corrections to the meeting minutes that we had a couple of corrections to?
Yes.
okay,
Okay, do I have a motion to accept those?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes with changes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? I think that was unanimous, all right. Okay, the zoning map, do you want the zoning map? So we lay out the zoning map and go through some of those corrections. We were going to list a few things. For that, we need to. Address.
You get a bulletin board with and stuff on. The copy from the commission. All right, save the microphone. And then I've also got the copies for the public, from the gallery.
You have this digitally that can be pulled up and zoomed in.
Absolutely, yeah, I can pull that up.
Great.
So we can put it on TV. Hey, Brian.
What about the table in the back?
Like, yeah, we can do that.
I was gonna say, anybody that wants to
Yeah.
take a look at it as well.
First,
First one. Thank you.
Okay. So. Last week. We discussed. Removing,
Is this our copy from last week? No,
No,
it's not.
we
Wait.
discussed.
Alright.
So those are
Not,
the proposed changes. I do have a map of the original zoning. That I can pull out for comparison if you want,
Okay.
or we can bring up
okay,
either one of them.
so we discussed not bringing forward. Form-based zoning. For now. And. We talked about. The, what we, if we did not bring back form-based zoning. What would we replace it with, and the decision that we made was that. The sections that were form-based zoning would be incorporated into the areas where they currently existed. The motion, I think, left out the fact that we have. One area that of form-based zoning that was over by Chris's that is currently. CDR, wasn't that one?
No,
What is that?
that's not form-based.
By the general store, and that would stay, is that CDR?
No.
CV2.
CV,
Nordic.
That's different, yeah, so first is the commercial by the general store, who can zoom into.
yeah, we can zoom in when we were,
I'm not remembering before.
It's the motion that you have to switch all form based back to AB3.
Right.
and that was in, and that, that's what we need to fix, that's why we're here. Because that, we noticed it at the end of the meeting, it's like. The motion wasn't accurate, and we bringing that up.
No.
Being mindful of the fact that. Anybody who is currently in. Any zoning that currently exists, if we don't bring a zone forward. And that zone is currently used under that ordinance, for example, gravel. Mr. Dunleavy was concerned about his gravel pit and not taking away his gravel pit. When I listened to the meeting yesterday. Those will not change.
Right, they're grandfathered.
Right, it's called a non-conforming use.
Okay.
And so if we have anything that is currently in a zone, if we don't bring that zone forward. That doesn't mean their zoning is going to change, it means there isn't going to be additional.
Right.
Zoning in that area, we are not, they will come forward as non-conforming. Property, is that what you explained to us, Corbin?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Hey,
Corbin.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Janet.
Are you pulling up the map, Brian, or somebody pulling up the map?
Why not pulling up the map?
Corbin, if they're not adopting a zone,
Janet,
yeah, I think he's getting incorrect.
I'm sorry, I was trying to respond to a text. Can you please repeat that? I want to make sure that I understand what you just asked.
okay, if we don't bring zoning forward and the zone is currently being used for a property, okay? If there is a gravel pit in the Ogden Valley and we don't move forward the gravel zone, that gravel pit isn't required to close, it's considered a non-conforming use, and that stays the way it is. It just means going forward, another one there isn't a zone for another one to come into existence, and that would
That
be
is correct.
all of those. Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
So if we could, when Brian pulls up the map, if we could just zoom in on each of those prior form-based locations, and we should just take those to be very specific.
Yes.
And as he's doing that, as we were removing the form-based, I just wanted to clarify that the purpose is, tying back to the general plan. So, our current general plan that we're reviewing to move forward for adoption has standards for TDRs, and that basically feeds zones like this. And so there's no more mechanism as we're planning to put forth with the general plan, right? So there's no mechanism to implement future FB zones. So, reason for removing it from the zone for now. Perhaps after the next general plan comes around, that might change. It will be a different version, but according to the current version, it doesn't apply. It's driven by street regulating plans, and the general plan states that a key road planning objective is to maintain and improve existing roadways before constructing new ones. Therefore, building roadway infrastructure as a means to establish development patterns is counter to the general plan. That's another reason. And then, commercial development principle 1.1, limit all new commercial development in the Ogden Valley planning area to Huntsville, the resort areas and village areas as shown on said maps. Avoid scattered and strict commercial and retail development patterns. Commercial development implementation 1.1.2 requires that new commercial or mixed use development located on property currently zoned for commercial uses, avoid rezoning property for commercial. And development principle 1.2 focus on creating vibrant village areas. And then just the whole slew of, general plan references that
I agree.
are kind of the basis for why, where I had proposed made a motion to not adopt the form-based zone at this time.
Correct. And I believe when we reviewed some of the, the information from the transition team meetings, those were comments that we also read and took into consideration as we were as we were moving forward with that. So what we do want to make sure we're doing is we wanted those form-based zones to go back to the zones that they were within, so we didn't have little
Okay, so
donuts. Yes, Brian?
What we want is for them to return to the zone designation that existed prior to their designation as a form-based code.
yes,
Well, with one exception, potentially near the Eden Portway by the general store, whereas that was AB3, but it makes sense with this concept of the village core that we
commercial.
changed that commercial valley too, I believe. If you could pull that up on the.
Yeah.
And so
That makes way more sense because it's already there. Yeah.
And it is.
and it fits in with the general plan as we
Yeah.
talk about those,
Yes.
the village nodes.
Yes.
It's along established roadways, adjacent to commercial. Or.
And there are already commercial properties within that area that would fit perfectly.
So that's the one exception where rather than reverting to AB3. I would suggest that be converted to
CB2.
BB2, the adjacent.
Mhm.
Right.
So that's.
all the planning boards recommend?
What's that?
Which of this is the current form based?
The
Right.
the lighter gray area. Yeah.
Mhm.
Looking for that new, the Pilates and.
So the purple is commercial.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just that, okay.
And we have make a motion to these
I
areas.
think, I don't know if I meant my prior motion perhaps, or I just.
I say we do. We do it separately.
Corbin, do you have advice on that?
So we get.
The agenda is for being discussed and they asked you, so I'm not sure.
Well, this was basically correcting the previous motions.
Corbin, can we correct the previous motion? Do we need a new motion about that?
Yeah, so if the person who made the previous motion withdraws it, then you can correct it. So whoever made the previous motion, if that's what they want to do, then they can withdraw it and then remake the motion and you're good to go.
Okay,
It was Angela.
it was
Yeah.
Angela,
Okay, so I
yeah.
would like to withdraw my previous motion regarding rezones of farm-based properties, to state that, rezone due to removal of farm-based zone from our proposed.
Well, not bringing forward.
Not bringing forward, that properties that are basically the surrounding AV zone. And FV's 3 zones, AV3 and FE3 zones. Be zoned to accordingly, and with the property located at, the address. 5500 east, 2200 north. That corner L-shaped parcel be zoned CB2. To be compatible with the surrounding and adjacent commercial zones.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did I get it right this time? Yeah, I think you did.
Maybe you should review with Sharon,
Yes.
here.
It's actually Shannon.
Okay,
Shannon.
then, to make sure we get that. Right.
And does that matches the map? I don't know if that matches the current map you're providing, Brian, or if we need to look at that commercial piece. And have that amended and approve this map with that change.
So the map on the table is the map with the edits we discussed last week,
So
which would. So now you're talking about taking this parcel here
A little, yeah,
and
Yeah.
adding that.
making that into CVR one.
Not CVR, not CVR, CB2.
CV2, making it match what is around it.
So whoever moved to approve the map last time, they
We did.
and then.
We approved the entire map, so we approved certain zones, and then we said all remaining zones in one motion and approved the rest of them.
Okay, so now we need to rescind that map approval with whoever made that motion and
Did we make a motion?
Well, for the other ones, it didn't include the form-based because it was just remaining zones.
We also discussed the MPD, is that the
there were
manufacturer?
several other changes.
There were, okay,
But those were all-
what we said was we didn't address the manufacturing last time. So. In the notes, if you take a look, it said we did. No, we did do a motion. Everything on that. We did do, okay. So we had HR 1 through 6 zones, replaced those with parcels with CDR 1. So you have those. It's like 2/3 of the way down on page 2. But earlier in the discussion, I had light manufacturing was not discussed, at least not in detail.
It doesn't need to be, we weren't changing the
No,
manufacturing.
that, it was the
Manufactured housings.
manufactured housing area.
Yeah.
behind the kids. And we were
Actually,
okay with
yes.
that the way it was.
I actually have some comments from the property owner on that.
Okay,
Oh,
Maybe I can wait till the mayor gets back, or I can follow her when she gets back. The property owner actually reached out to me this morning and asked what the process would be to rezone the property.
to what we want to do.
She wants to, she is interested in rezoning the property from RNH 16. She wants to change it to commercial penalty, so.
Well, that's what we.
And
that's
so
what
I said, that sounds an awful lot like a
What you're
conversation.
saying
I
we
just-
want to do.
Yes, so I believe you have the property owners. She
Blessing.
wasn't feeling well and didn't want to come to the meeting tonight, but I believe you would have her.
For
support
blessing,
in
okay,
rezoning
that is
the
written,
property.
Thank you.
okay.
So, and
So
that.
everything else, I mean,
is here.
yeah.
How did she do that? Changing against them.
The point has been raised that rezoning that property to commercial does bring in the potential for increased density of development on the property.
Can we,
Okay.
hone in on
So-
that parcel? On the new map, let's look at the new map and.
Okay, new map.
Is that one of the village node areas?
yes, well,
No, it's not a village node area. It sounds like it's a commercial area. But it's already zoned CV,
No,
she wants the whole thing.
this is next to Chris's. This is
Yeah.
behind Chris's.
Right,
So Chris's property is zoned C, well, the property that the restaurant is on is already zoned CB. Actually, I think the CR, sorry, I can't.
It's
So,
This is a CB, but is it CBR? I don't think so.
I don't think so, I think it's CD two.
Is it CD2?
I think so.
If it's already CV two,
DDR one.
Oh, it's CBR1.
Sorry, I saved it to my laptop, thinking we could go faster, but this is the big, it's a big, more like. Fat area, man, what's the-
residential. So we were, and our proposal was to have the piece that would that was the, whatever, abutted, yes, match what Chris's currently is. So we did not discuss changing that to an entirely different zone,
Right.
CV two. Does anybody feel like that, I mean, so that is not what we discussed in our motion.
No, it's
Do
not.
we need to do that?
Do we, or do we wanna explore whether or not we think that's an appropriate change, and let that go with after the moratorium? And we said we wanted to take those pieces and incorporate them where they were.
So the minutes say that those parcels would be replaced with CDR one, and I think that's just,
CVRs.
I'm saying with the minutes,
Yeah.
I think the minutes should say CV as in Victor.
Right.
Is that another
That's like-
direction to the minutes?
Yeah,
Actually,
actually,
okay, sorry.
There's too many letters and numbers.
it's fine.
So what would be the correct,
CV as in Victor,
just CB?
R-1.
Okay,
We don't have a CVR, I don't think.
And she's requesting CV2.
No.
No, I'm sorry, he's requesting it to be the same.
Same
It's the same as what we decided last time we were
Okay.
here.
The same as what Chris.
Well, I mean, I can pull up the
And that
email.
is.
Please do.
CV as in
Show you
Victor,
exactly.
dash one.
Because they have very different uses.
Yeah. So CVR one is what Chris's is currently zoned, and our proposal last week and this week still is to take that little piece behind
And
and add
incorporate
it
back
in
in.
to,
Right.
and bring it back into CVR one, and it sounds like that matches what the property owner was hoping to have.
We want to make double check.
Okay,
My only concern with it being CBR1, and maybe it doesn't matter, when it was originally platted out for manufactured housing, maybe the impact would be the same, but CBR allows short-term rental. You can do condos in there, or you can do,
we've removed short-term rentals as a permitted, was what we discussed, was removing short-term rentals as a permitted use for everything right now.
okay,
But what our hope would be is that then that our discussion was, then that would open up the possibility for more housing. And it could be rental housing. It could be regular, owner occupied housing, and then come back after we have time to really dig into the short-term rental ordinance, because there's a lot that needs to be addressed, I think, with the short-term.
so what you're saying is that by that motion, it would remove that possibility from the CVR1
I think-
description unless something changed.
We haven't passed CVR one
Okay,
yet, so
alright.
whatever we bring forward for CVR one is what would be included.
Okay,
CVR one is still being worked on, and to come forward for,
okay,
Our
so this is a
final
little
approval.
confusing because you're trying to approve something that has the potential to just change in 2 weeks, right?
no.
Yeah, because if you say CVR1 and we included the whole parcel, both pieces as CVR1.
Right. Then whatever we decide for CVR one is gonna apply to every CVR one zone
Got it.
that's there.
Okay,
Does that make
Alright.
sense?
yeah, it does, but I do have a little bit of hesitation just because of their rental thing, but if you're saying that's.
Well, that, I mean, we haven't brought CDR one to the table for a vote. Small groups are working on those still. So when we, right, so when we get there and we bring it to the table, then that
And we can
decision will be
discuss it.
made and we'll discuss
Okay.
it. But for today, what we're discussing is taking that little piece of property that is
Right.
behind
I get that.
Chris's and not bringing that zoning forward, incorporating that property into what is currently CDR one.
So what did her email say? Brian?
And while he's pulling that up, on the GeoGizmo, it's one parcel, so I'm not sure how it came to be that there's a slice of a different zone.
I don't know.
I have a parcel on that operated south.
Yeah. it's kind of messy though.
There are a lot of parcels where the zoning boundary does not match the property line. And so that's one thing that we might want to talk about cleaning up is, as we look at making adjustments to certain property or making adjustments to certain zone boundaries to ensure that they have a cleaner relationship, either to some sort of landmark, like a river or a ridge line or a foothill to a slope,
Sure.
or a property line, just to ensure that there
It's, yeah, that does make sense. Is that something that can wait till the next round,
Yes.
or is it something
Yes.
that, okay,
we do not need to do that right now.
okay.
Okay.
We're
We're just waiting to hear what she actually said in her email.
Can I get a quick overview? Where are we at? Are we trying to make adjustments and then reapprove this map? Or are we just trying to approve what we already?
we had.
Yeah, my motion didn't convey my intent, so I'm trying to fix
I
that.
thought about the form based.
So that was the form base, and then other than that, I think. Everything else was changed, your boundary to the FAB3, FAB3 was changed. Gravel was absorbed into its adjacent zones. And,
And then just
this,
this.
parcel here was absorbed into the CD.
Okay, we're probably done.
Yeah, she was requesting from manufactured housing to CDR one.
Okay,
Okay.
so that is consistent with what we were planning to do, so we are making one person happy.
Okay.
No, we are making one happy.
I don't think we wanna be in the habit of just like generally rezoning and upzoning or whatever we wanna call it, but because it's one parcel and it's a small portion of that parcel, I think it's clean and logical to absorb it into that majority parcel zone. So with that, I don't know who made the prior motion to approve the map, I think we can approve it with the change.
Aaron Schaefer motion for all other zones to remain as they are currently. So,
There, yeah.
Aaron,
We need, well, Brian, Corbin said we need to withdraw a motion and take a new motion to adopt the map as with the changes that have been
Made today.
made.
so this should, Aaron's motion was just all other zones. It did not include the individual zone changes. It was
Okay,
the
so,
remainder.
alright,
So
so who did
we've
the
already addressed,
We're done?
well, I don't know.
I need to make a new motion
Okay.
to fix my other, and that is to zone the prior form-based zoning parcels to AB3, we're surrounded by AB3 zone, which includes area north of Old Town Eden, and zone the parcel at the intersection at 55. Let's say, how did I do this, but
You did that one already.
did I?
We
anybody-
did it.
You did,
we didn't motion and second it, I don't think.
Yeah,
Did we already do that?
we did.
Okay.
We did,
Excellent.
oh, do we need another, now do we need a motion for moving the manufactured housing into CDR one?
I think that was.
We did that.
I already did that.
I think we already did that, so I think we're good.
So then it was proof of the map. With the.
With the correction of.
So I motion to approve the map with the corrections that have been made today.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and that correction would be the property by Carlos and Harley's is not going to move forward as 83. It's going to move forward as CDV up to two.
CB2.
Okay, that's what it is now.
So we have to be that specific when we do a motion.
I'm just looking at Brian's face and I wanna make sure Brian knows.
Yeah, I don't
I'm saying, but he's, yeah, so is that,
So more specific is good.
no, I'm just, Brian, you
Yes.
understand what the change today was?
Yeah, I understand what the changes are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Alright.
Aaron seconded.
In a second, okay,
Sharon.
all in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
So we propose changing FR3 to HR,
Sharon.
oh,
and that's not indicated on there. FR3 is still there, so
the name, that's.
do we have to
Do we have the other?
review that today before we can change that on the map?
Well, we haven't, have we approved it as a zone?
You've already approved the recommendation to change the zone
To HR,
to HR.
right,
Until the city council makes the change, it's
They
still
won't
out.
stay, okay,
So,
okay,
got it.
we did, yes, and it's, that's merely a change in the name, it's not a change in anything else, seeing, yeah.
Well, it's on the map,
Okay,
indicated on the map.
sure, but it has to be approved by the city council, or it's
we have to
actually.
approve the FR change to H1. And then we'll update them. We'll update the nomenclature on the map. The map itself, the labeling on the map is incidental to the colors and how they affect the parcels underneath it, so.
Okay. Okay, map is done and ready for release for.
So did you actually vote?
We started and I
You
had,
didn't.
Oh, you had a question, alright,
And you had.
thank you.
Had a second, but I didn't hear a vote.
Okay, Jen had a comment
a
and
question.
And are there any other questions?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, then I think this means the map is ready for release. For public comment, yes, very good. Okay, now, Fred, your point was well taken. Do you want to move down and was it FR3?
Yeah.
That we started with? No, FB3. Fred was asking if we could pick up there and finish that zone since we left off in the middle. Is that what you'd
Yes.
like to do?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
So that means Brian pulls that up on the screen as we can finish going through it.
Almost there. All right, where are we going to start?
We were down in the,
Yeah.
it's been clear, but I think we were down. One of the agricultural definitions. Usage. Yeah, we were picking brains, more elements to that.
Such as on-farm processing, custom meat cutting.
Right, and some of those,
Yeah, so we're going through each one of these to see if there's any comments, to leave them in or take them out, particularly for the agricultural.
So this has all been added. This is not original language to the FV zone. This has all been added. So the question is, do you want to
We want-
leave it in, so what we, just to recap, what we did is added language from the agricultural zoning that Tyson pulled in, and we got about halfway to. So we were gonna finish this off and go through each, see if anybody has problems with any of it, and if we want to take it out or anything, so.
And the reason that we did that is because our general plan talks about the emphasis on agriculture. And that that's very important to us, and so we don't feel the need to have agriculture only able to take place in the AB3 zone, that if it's with, there's agriculture taking place in other areas, we want to support that as well.
It's a question of the team, don't you on this, since you're handling both this and AB3, what are the substantial differences between the two zones, did you say?
They were very similar. I spoke with someone who had helped draft stuff forever ago. And he had explained that originally the forest zones that sort of up in the hills. They had created, so this one was in the forest zone there, allowing bed and breakfast to be available. And slightly more commercial uses. And I mean, the sentiment and the description of the zone seems we're trying to preserve forest land, but I say preserve, but we're just, I don't know, like incentivize keeping forests open versus this incentive of the agricultural land is each agriculture like to support agriculture where it wants to be.
So where's the text supporting preservation of forests in this?
Let's go to intended changes. So intended purpose and intent. The purpose for forest residential zones is providing area for residential development in a forest setting. Preservation maybe or the strong word. And then HR one zone is intended to accommodate establish medium density residential development in form of detached family and attached and multi-housing within a defined area of the valley. This zone recommends the existing condominium townhouse plans.
That's a different zone.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, that's-
following on
Yeah, that's it, yeah, that's the
the new HR.
new HR zone, we're gonna need to look at the forest valley zones. So I'll go ahead and read the entire one.
Thank you.
The purpose of the Forest Valley Zone FV3 is to provide area for residential development in a forest setting at low density, as well as to protect as much as possible the naturalistic environment of the development.
I think that's where I was getting protect.
Right, so then where in the ordinance, like if somebody were to build on that V3 and want to remove all the trees,
I don't think there actually is any protections for that. So that was kind of like almost like a general plan where it's like, this is the intent of this zone, but historically, there's not necessarily anything that's doing that. So technically, some of their property rights, they could still go and bulldoze down the trees.
Yeah, and some of the Forest Valley Zone, as far as I can tell, didn't have trees.
Yeah, there's also that as well. Other than that wording, I would say they were fairly similar, other than the fact that this one. It had older and sloppier code mostly, its formatting was a little more rough and didn't include as many agricultural uses. And like I said, originally it had built in, it's not as conditional, I guess it was conditional use within this. But not an agritourism conditional use, but just as a conditional use in this zone, they allowed bed and breakfasts. And that was the primary distinction.
And I guess one of the areas that comes to mind for me is that Nordic Valley area. And there are people up in those areas that have agricultural, and they have horses, they have goats, they have all those kinds of things that I don't think we want to prohibit that going forward. We,
Do we place in each zone our slope restriction requirements, or is that going to be an umbrella? Ordinance over all of the zones? We talked about the limiting.
The subdivision ordinance requires a hillside review for any property in the valley. So, and if they are determined to be above 25% slope, it automatically triggers the hillside and steep slope design criteria.
okay, so.
But that's all subdivision.
But that, well,
And I guess maybe the definition of a subdivision matters, is that for any, does the definition of a subdivision include any new build, if the parcel's already there and they wanna build, and does that apply?
that is not a subdivision.
Yeah, so one house, it's not a subdivision.
So if we wanted to apply to existing parcels that have not yet been built, we need to build it into this ordinance, correct?
And I think we should.
Does it have to be built into this ordinance? So it can
If
be-
you want to restrict. Yeah, there needs to be something in there that refers to the
So,
hillside design standards. If there is a still.
Would it be reasonable for you to,
See, would that be
But-
under special
yeah, I'm looking,
regulations?
yeah.
Ron, I thought it was 30%. You said that.
I believe it's
It's 25,
25 to
just-
25, yeah. That would be any build, special circumstances have to, that applies
Yeah.
to any build. Can you,
I think this is a valid discussion, but we're ping ponging from trying to go over the existing uses
Right.
out there to then questioning the forests versus agriculture, and now we're going to this, so.
right,
We stay on one track and then finish that one.
and then go to that one.
Yeah, which was all of these agricultural uses, whether there were any concerns with those that have been carried forward in here.
Yeah.
And I think our little subcommittee is good with it, so it was really to get the rest of the planning commission to see if there's any objections to any of them.
So,
Otherwise, our subcommittee would recommend that this proceed and get it
okay,
consolidated by Brian and then go to a final review and approval next week.
and
So I would say if anybody, other than who's on our subcommittee, if they want to look at any of these particular usage or allowed usages, then let's look at them. Otherwise, we could.
do you have a long list of conditional?
No, we
No.
have condition.
No.
Pay them.
I don't see.
Okay,
Agritourism is conditional, so that that's something again we'll have in the future.
Yeah.
say that one more time.
Agritourism,
Okay, yeah.
And child daycare,
child daycare was, and this is the carryover also from the R 83.
83, it's the same as it.
Where we wrote it so just someone doing casual, like watching the neighbor's kids or something like that is just permitted without having extra permission, but if they're gonna have a full on. Like operation, but that would be.
For commercial, that they're.
Yeah, so money's exchanging hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah, okay, I don't know. Turf horse, jumping course, I don't know if there are any places, we talked about that in 83, I don't know about any particular areas, if it's. But I'm fine with leaving it, because if there's not space to do it, then you wouldn't do it, I guess the couple of places that I think of that I know have those things, I don't know if, for example, the Doctors Smith over in the Nordic Valley area, I don't know if they're 83 or FV3, but they're right in that cusp. I know they have probably property in both, but they've got turf course jumping courses out there, and So but I'm fine with it. I don't have any problem with that being in there.
So does everyone, I guess, could everyone who's not in our group just state if they're good with the uses and then we can move on to slope?
I am good with the uses.
There's a couple that are still C in there, child daycare.
Yep.
Yeah, those are staying that way.
Okay. Agritourism.
Lisa, you still have a comment. We, on the school bus parking, we put no more than 2 in current use, and then you said how many buses are allowed. So that was one question we don't.
Well, I think we don't want a bus yard.
Correct.
Like, we don't want a bus yard, that every bus driver that serves Weaver County School District, often the bus drivers keep those buses at their home. I think we would probably prefer that if they're gonna keep their bus at their home, then they keep that bus at their home, but not have one person volunteer to keep all the buses in their home.
So we have in there no more than 2, so in case it's husband and wife, for example, the both are bus drivers, 2 buses, is that good?
What, I can't even think of a time you would have 2 buses.
Well, her husband and wife are both bus
That's
drivers.
what we talked
If my husband and wife are both bus drivers,
I don't know.
I
Just said no more than 2.
Okay,
And in current use.
Yes.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's okay.
in current use, does that mean they could be parked there if they're not in current use?
Well, like not like project buses. This is
What do you mean by project bus?
like
Like,
turning into a RV or something.
well, yeah, like the buses that you can have, I mean, can you have those over there or not?
A project-
Project bus.
That's kind of what.
I mean, I know of a particular residence that has had up to 4 or 5 buses in their yard that they are converting.
So how do you organize us?
If I can add, they would be treated just the same as any non-functioning vehicle. Under the city.
That wouldn't be special.
It's a bus,
Okay.
whether it's a bus or a
Something
truck.
that we address, right?
You don't
That's
need to
something
worry
that
about,
City council will address.
you don't, it's already addressed under the city's nuisance ordinance. You don't need to,
We don't have to worry about that. Good.
if it's a non-functioning vehicle, it's already covered under code. You don't need to worry about whether it's a bus or not.
Okay.
Angela, what were your question?
Okay, so I'm harping on this whole idea that this is low density residential, and I see a lot of uses here that to me feel more commercial, like manufacturing almost. Things like laboratory, dog breeding, animal hospital, church, public schools. I'm not realizing how that fits into a low density residential neighborhood. And I get the ag stuff and the having animals raising and all that, but not these kind of heavier commercial uses.
I could see maybe a church, because it's not commercial, I mean, it's a public building. But the others, I'm gonna kind of lean towards Angela. We've just been talking a lot about it, because we're doing the commercial zone and trying to encourage or somehow zone so that commercial is staying fairly compact and not getting spread out all over. And a laboratory, I mean, we talked about that too, what does that entail? I mean, there's so many definitions of laboratory.
I would be fine, I mean, I'm not probably one of my group, but I'm fine to remove whatever you guys want to make you guys not remove, so if you just state which ones you don't.
Why don't you go through them one at a time, Angela?
So laboratory,
Is that like farm laboratory or something like that, agriculture laboratory?
But what would, in your mind, what is that?
it's like, so.
I almost think of that as like a university, like a research
Like
station
an
or
extension or something?
something like
It
that.
could be considered like if it's a dairy or something that's producing animal products. It could be an on-site laboratory to test for bacteria or, to check for product quality and.
Okay,
So would that also include like someone who has goats that sells goat milk and they tested for bacteria? Would that be considered, like, would their personal use of their testing stuff be considered?
No, it would be more like a commercial business set up to test for multiple claims
okay.
within the area.
So like soil sampling too or something. I think it's a highly unlikely use. So it's not a huge deal if we take it out, because I can't.
Okay.
I don't know a single person who's.
Okay,
Okay, yeah,
Laboratory facility comes out.
am I hearing we want to take that out? as
I
a,
would like to see that removed.
okay, very well, let's change that to N.
Dog ratings.
I'll cut that out then, okay?
Is there one?
Where's Brian on it?
You know, Brian, me too, no, I got it.
You got it.
Those dog ratings, like, the page down.
We can't
It
have
has
more than
to-
10 dogs more than 10 weeks old, so that's a mom and 8 puppies. For
So
8 weeks,
that's,
that's happening.
that's a pretty small use, but.
That's a small use.
Maybe it's the word breeding that you kind of go.
And is it
Puppy love.
like contained inside? If I were buying property in a low density rural hillside, I wouldn't expect barking dogs outside. So could we say something about indoor?
I'm trying to find out down below. see.
Like, we're not an outfit being contained in an
10 dogs
outfit.
of more than 10 weeks per acre, that's potentially a litter of puppies.
Right.
Maybe two,
Yeah.
it seems like that's one litter of puppies.
If you own 3 acres, you could have.
If you own 3 acres, you could have,
30.
There is something that, in special instruction, I said in special regulations.
Okay.
It says dog breeding, boarding, kennels, or training facilities may be permitted subject to the following standards. The number of dogs over 10 weeks of age shall not exceed 10 per acre, so that any building, run, or enclosure used for housing or training dogs shall be located no closer than 100 feet from a public street and 50 feet from any side or rear property line. And operation shall be conducted in a manner that prevents excessive noise, odor, or nuisance impacts beyond property line. Facilities exceeding these thresholds may require conditional use permit.
Okay.
So I'm not saying you have to like that, so.
No,
that still doesn't-
no, actually, that's why we're here is to talk
Yeah.
about it and find stuff out.
I agree, if you had 30 dogs is a whole lot different than one litter of puppies.
Well, what about
and that-
instead of making it conditional to acreage, you make it conditional to the parcel? So if you have a 5 acre parcel, it's still 10 dogs. If you have a 1 acre, it's 10 dogs. I don't know, just throwing stuff out.
I'd be fine with that. Anybody else? Well,
I'm good, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, we
litter
don't-
puppies is.
So let's
Yeah, better.
put this in a pragmatic scenario. I guess I am aware of numerous people in the valley who raise dogs, and it's part of their, that's how they make money. They have 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 dogs. I don't know that they're in this zone, but they, on a regular basis, now, are we okay with that or not okay with that as a?
Are they
small
not like a,
business?
like a license?
I don't,
to do
I
these
don't know.
dogs?
Would we require a license if they wanna do that?
Well,
There's
there's
such
that.
needs of things. I know people who do guardian homes, so the dog lives someplace else while it's pregnant, they come, they stay with the breeder for 8 weeks, and then they go to their respective puppy homes, and then the mama dog goes back to her guardian home, and they swap them out, so they're not living on the property 24/7, 365.
Okay.
Or
But they're still there.
If I could just ask, you know, frame it this way, is this a problem? Are there too many dogs right now?
No, I mean.
Then
I am,
we
not
need-
here, but I am aware that, I believe Kirk Langford told me there was somebody next to him, he lives up on the hillside. What would it be?
Doesn't matter
North?
anyway.
Anyway, yeah, and that there was a problem. At some point, somebody had a pretty big dog facility and some neighbors objected. I don't know that we have a current problem. But I don't.
But also, Brian, my understanding is for us to look at this, not just now, but to kind of have a forward-looking vision of what might be, right? And so I feel like if we could address it now and maybe put some parameters on it that feel acceptable and pretty
I feel like
good.
the parameters that are there are the same that are in the CB.
Yeah,
So I don't really see the issue.
okay.
Are
I mean, it
we,
was a carryover.
is there a possibility that we're okay with leaving this the way it is for now and addressing it in the next round?
Yep, sure.
Okay,
So animal hospital.
What's the next round? What do you mean?
Like,
when after the moratorium is lifted and we then,
Yeah, and you know, this will go for public comment anyway,
yeah.
once we're done, so I think
Sure,
if people have a
Yeah.
problem with it, we'll hear about it, then we can make
Okay,
adjustments,
Sure.
so we're gonna leave dog
I
breeding,
think, is that
dog
right?
kennel, dog training
Yeah.
schools as is, okay.
animal hospital and a public school. If I'm okay with a church, yes, but animal hospital and public school doesn't seem. Low.
I think,
Do we have no say in?
it says, I don't think we have to say where they decide to put public school there, that veterinary
That's
clinics and
stated.
animal hospitals are permitted as an accessory or small scale uses provided they primarily serve local needs and do not generate excessive traffic noise or nuisance impacts. So
So I mean, I'm thinking of Etta Baker, you know, she was,
she would have been in 83, and then there's also Bob Bradbury,
Yeah.
who I know was petitioning the county before incorporation was complete, and she has property over in the Nordic Valley area. I don't know what area, what her zoning is, but she would like to be able to have her veterinary clinic at her house. I think, she has acreage, she has a barn, she has parking that would allow her to see a horse, that somebody could pull it in a
Right.
trailer rather than
so does this,
over where
Does
she
this-
isn't. I don't have a problem with that. It says
Does this
as an
have any
accessory
notes
or
on it?
small scale use.
or
Yeah.
specific to a veterinary?
Let me see.
It says veterinary clinics and animal hospitals are permitted as accessory or small scale uses,
Okay,
provided they primarily serve local needs and do not generate excessive traffic, noise, or nuisance impacts. I'm actually okay with that. I think it's nice that we have vets up here. We don't
I'm
have.
kind of okay with it too,
Yeah.
because it makes more sense to me to
I don't
have it
think-
out.
It's not
Than in a commercial-
standing clinic, that would need to go somewhere else. What do you think?
Okay.
Sorry, it just,
No,
no,
that's
that's,
why we're here.
yeah, we're supposed to be doing this.
Anything else then?
Anything else?
One thing we've talked about several times, I think would tie into this, hopefully it's not a detour, is we talked about general horse regulation that applies to all zones.
Right,
So we can use what's already there, or we could do a slight detour to some wording I sent you guys. to
Yeah.
See if you like, or if we want to tweak a horse language that we apply to all. So,
The one that you sent out?
yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on
And
that?
so the
well, I made comments on it.
the quarter acre for the stabling, it was what we were considering moving forward was what was in the Weaver County Code, which was 1 horse per quarter acre
Mhm.
with a minimum of 1 acre parcel. And then we put some caveats in there. Then Tyson looked up some information that he sent out that we discussed. He resent that out to make sure everybody had that. And I think I'm actually okay with, personally, I'm okay with however the group wants to go. I think that the language, moving the language forward is potentially easier to enforce. The other one, it is really quite reasonable. It's a very reasonableness standard, but that potentially could make enforcement more challenging, depending more on, because.
So does that feel like enforcement, is that feeling like something that? I guess I'm not understanding whether you're liking that enforcement would be harder or,
I'm just saying. We aren't going to enforce this, the city has to figure
Right.
out how to enforce
right?
this. And when, you can drive by and go, okay, this is how big it is, they have 12 horses on that acre. And that's not allowed, that's much more clear cut.
Okay,
If they have 6 horses on an acre, but they've got a nice neat barn with turnouts and they have a small area that they have for grass and they rotate through and it's clean and neat and they're taking good care of that. Then it sounds like that might be allowed in Tyson's perspective description. And
but how do you enforce that?
if it's a mess,
It's an enforcement though.
I know,
Yeah.
but we're trying to make it easier for city council too. I mean,
I
I think that we're kind of the forerunners for it,
so
so
I honestly.
my comments were that the second definition where they were housed in barns or stalls and stuff, that it didn't have density.
Yeah,
right? And I don't know.
So I think,
That's why I want to talk about it.
Yeah,
yeah, so it sounds like that needs some discussion. I would propose that we proceed with FB3 as we have here tonight, and let's discuss
Back to
that
it.
in due course. And I would make a motion that we advance FB3 to Brian's team to clean up the formatting, and bring back next week for us to do a final review and approval of that.
I see.
You should say all in favor.
I'm watching conversation and wondering if Brian needs to say something. All in favor? Shay, hey,
That way we do have two zones in there. Whenever we want to have.
yeah, if we wanna change it, we can change it.
We can
Okay,
tweak.
Where,
I don't think it's true.
which two? I don't think so. We just did FB3 and said FR3. I think
We did FR3
we did our FR3
Okay.
at the last meeting.
last week.
Yeah.
It was, I was, we did. Okay, let's, wanna go to AB3 since we're there, and then we can go to the definition, subdivisions and design standards.
Yeah.
The only caveat is, okay, it has the same question.
I thought we moved 83 last week too.
We didn't move AB3 out.
You didn't get there?
We didn't get to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, since we're almost done with the FR3, the hillside, what do we have left to
I think
do?
FR3, which is HR now, I think we're done with that one.
I think we put it together.
And I didn't see it in the motion.
Yeah, so we just,
You know what, I don't know that.
There was a motion to change it on the map, but I don't think there was a motion about adopting, moving it.
Yeah,
Right.
it would be HR now, right?
Right.
That we would.
The only motion that we had on FR3 was to change it to HR.
Yeah.
We didn't make a motion to move
To
it.
the-
I think we've had that all the times.
Do we wanna look at FR3 next?
I just wonder if we can make a motion, I think we've gone through it.
yeah.
Okay.
That's my point. I
Yeah.
think we can make a motion just to move it forward. I don't think we're gonna
Right.
change anything.
Yeah, we
They are.
were pretty thorough last week.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Needs to go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay, well, I move that we move forward HR proposed zone to Brian as it's edited. And as we reviewed in the past two meetings, to Brian to clean up language and publish for public comment. hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good. Hey, should we go to AB3?
Well, maybe definitions might be.
You wanna go to definitions?
To
Okay.
get through, I don't know, is that, I
Sure.
mean, I made some comments in there, but I think it's all pretty straightforward and from what I saw.
I'm fine with that, there were a couple of comments,
The huge
On
long list, you're talking about.
definitions. Let's push
You're talking
through.
about the huge long list.
Yeah, the definition.
Mhm.
What's that, new again, gentlemen?
Design standard.
General Land Use Administration, it's the folder that I've been.
Yeah, I'm having a struggle getting the file full.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
Sorry, just on continuing the one that you just talked about. On the critical path, we had talked about being able to publish, and there's a packet that was going out. And I'm worried that that's going to make it difficult or impossible to be able to do that. And so I just want to ask quickly and this is the one that you just continued till next week. This would be the FV3.
FB3.
Yeah, and so is there any possibility that you could forward that one on, and remember that all you're doing is approving a version for release to the public? They'll get to review it and come in and make comment on it. If you don't like exactly what it says, you will always have the opportunity after the public hearing and can make any edits that you want in order to forward it on to the city council. I'm just more concerned about timeframes at this point than anything. that
So at
one,
least it'll move forward.
Yeah, we're good
Okay.
with that.
Yeah.
Okay, are we on, okay, so,
So your last motion was to bring it back next week, clean it up and bring it back next week.
No,
and
So this would be to amend it, to clean it up and put it forward and.
prepare the public comment, which means that we need to be able to see it. Okay, so we need a new motion.
Fred, just withdraw your
Withdraw
last
your motion.
Yes, so I'll withdraw my last motion.
and then you can
And
revise it.
then I make a motion to move FB3 onto Brian's team to format, and then to release for public comment.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, great, that's
thank
helpful.
you.
Yeah,
Okay. Same thing for the HR?
we did that.
You did it.
we did, yes.
Okay.
Okay, now you wanna go to definitions? Okay.
I'm interested why you think this is easy.
I mean, I made some, really just some editorial comments in there and changes, and I think everything's there. There was nothing that I know Lisa did, maybe Angela, but I didn't see anything in there. I think it looks good, and you know, they were carried over from Weber County and have been working for a while, right, Brian?
I just feel like some things are missing. Or incomplete, or don't apply to where they've been.
Okay, let's talk
Inserted.
about that.
Yeah, such as.
What was the one that we, street,
So first, yeah, just a text edit, there's B is missing from the list. On the first page, and then. There's a lot of different references to various beer and taverns and liquor, and I'm sure there's a state regulated definition of all of the things that. So we just wanna make sure that those are cleaned up, because those weren't in the definitions necessarily.
alcohol is just not. We're running into it that it has like, I think we had came up with 6 different definitions, and we're wondering if the state of Utah is recognizing each one of those definitions as something separate, or it's just somebody saying, oh, well, I call it a beer, it's a bar, and somebody says, I call it a tavern. We need to know how much state regulation there is in those definitions.
There's not much, you are either licensed to serve beer or you are licensed to serve liquor. Liquor and wine. And
Okay,
so-
not both. And what the
Well,
difference?
you can have both, but there are establishments that can serve beer. That can serve, they're primarily eating establishments, but they are also allowed to serve beer, but in order to serve
But we don't have any control over
liquor
those.
and wine.
No, but
But
it's still,
I see.
it comes up in our definition.
I
So what's the difference between serving beer and serving beer, draft beer? Canned beer versus draft beer.
There's no difference. Well,
Well,
there is a difference in terms of how the establishment has to be set up. Draft beer has to get the Zion curtain, right? Draft beer has to be
Okay.
outside of minors.
but that is controlled by the state, not local ordinance. Am I
Yeah,
right?
it's a liquor.
Okay, so maybe that answers our question.
Yeah, so I think just simplifying that, because there's several references that maybe we can clean that up and clean it up in the references of
Yeah.
uses. And then there's a whole lot of uses listed in each of the zones that are not defined. And I think that the ambiguity is going to be problematic. So if somebody can just go through like every listed use, make sure there's a plug-in.
Yeah,
to
'cause it's-
definitions.
Yeah, as we've been looking up some of them, we haven't been able to find a definition. And like one of them, the best example would be, what are they calling it, street?
Oh, so, yeah, there's the
Uh,
regulating plan in the ordinance differs from the definition. Well, not street regulating plan, sorry, complete streets.
Complete
It's
streets.
different in the ordinance than it is in the definition. So there needs to be compatibility.
So we either need them to match up.
And then there's a lot of duplication, boarding house, lodging house, billiards, pool hall, we could just clean up the redundancies too.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So back to the beer thing too, if maybe the definition could just be handled under alcohol. And then maybe subdivide it into beer specific and then hard liquor. Could we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, that would help us because what we're running into is in the commercial area, we're like, is there a difference between a pool hall and a billiard room? Or is it one can serve beer and one can't,
Well, that should be the definition.
but it's not, that's what we're saying. The definitions are not.
If there's not a definition for a pool hall, then there is no such thing. You wouldn't call it a pool hall, you'd call it something else that meets the definition.
That's why I'm not there.
Well, then, you know,
Pardon me?
Starts with.
I mean, there's also not a boogeyman hall defined in here. I mean, you're not gonna have everything in the universe.
No, you're not,
That
but
you
as,
can envision.
but I guess the thing is, as we're going through the commercial zoning list, that's pages and pages long, it's very specific. And we've been looking at it specifically and saying, do we want to include it? Do we not want to include it? And I think we do want to include something in our zoning about the serving of alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So we have to determine it within the commercial zone, how we want to label that. So when somebody comes to ask for that, they say, it's right here on your list, right?
Well, we can always modify this later too and put,
Yeah,
I'm concerned that we're not pushing much out of our planning commission. You know, we want to be good, but we don't want to let perfect get in the way of good and not
Right.
make any progress. So I mean, if we see some things down the road that need to be amended and added in, we can do that. But I think by and large, this has got a pretty comprehensive.
it is
listing of
very
what we need,
comprehensive.
other than
Except
we're missing B, as Angela said.
Yeah.
Okay, Angela, going back to your complete streets question, I found your comment where you mentioned the word facility, and I applaud you. That's engineering jargon for a street or sidewalk. A transportation facility is what's on the ground to use to walk on, so we can simplify that, make that more plain language.
And I get what you're saying, Fred, and I'd love to move this forward, but I've had these comments that I don't think we need to define every word used in the ordinances, but I think we need to define every use. So unless there's some.
What would the order of operations be in your mind on how we do that? Cause I feel like the only way to do that, in the way you're describing it in my mind anyway, is we have to create all of our ordinances and then go back and create this definition of suit.
I mean, we
Can you do it concurrently,
have
kind
a
of?
petition, some standard things that you.
This is the joy of the maintenance of a document like this. Weber County has been adding and removing and changing these ordinance languages for decades,
Mhm.
Right.
but they have not gone through every single time to maintain consistency with their definitions and other things. So,
Right. It's the time to get the consistency. I mean, the
well,
language.
now is a good time. Now is a good time to get to start on it. We do have to be cognizant that
Right.
we only have until July.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Does the definitions go out for public review?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the push, is to get it out for public review, because it's holding up the moratorium.
Yes.
Okay, now I'm clear on that.
But it doesn't have to be the first thing out, right? I mean, it has to be out before ordinances are released and the map is released, right? Which is going to start happening potentially, like we'll have our first public hearing on the 24th.
Right.
So is there time between now and notice on the 14th to add some of this language?
Yes.
What's that? Sounds like, cause you guys are seeing a lot of definitions, I think there's less there's less specific words that mean definitions in
Yeah.
other zones.
Mhm.
Would you guys be willing to create definitions as you go through your stuff, as you go through commercial? And-
Yeah, we just weren't sure how much leeway we had on a couple of them. That's why I asked them about the alcohol. We didn't know if there was
Some other
state reasoning and also the complete street. A couple of things that we're just not, we weren't quite sure how to move forward with them.
Okay.
Yeah, we're happy to put a simplified list, it doesn't, if you want us to streamline it, you kind of get the pertinent,
We could.
non-obvious.
The other thing too, though, is as we've been going through other zones, not necessarily commercial, we have been running into some things as we've been dissecting a little bit that aren't clear and we go to the definitions and it doesn't clear it
So
up.
would it be reasonable to say, let's make a list as we find those things? Let's make a list so that we can address
Yes,
them.
that's a
And
good
we'll-
idea.
And it sounds like we definitely will need to bring definitions back for another discussion. Would it be okay? Do we want to continue the discussion on definitions? Or would it be possible that we can move to zone AB3 and try to get through that and get that pushed out so that that can be on our list
Yes,
for the public hearing? Is that okay?
yes.
Okay, if we could go, let's look at AB3 then. That's an idea, you take the lead on the police here, let's see, then. You may need help with that.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Ultimately not much, it just changed on the corridor from our last session. So we went over all the different uses and talked about those. But we won't do that again unless no one wants to. We still have, I guess what we got caught up on last time was actually the horses.
Yeah. And
So we can keep the existing language and make it forward to their public review, or we could use another language we created today, or the language that I suggested, in that.
I think we're good with doing your suggested language, just like we did with the others on the forest zone.
Okay, and the forest only left it, actually.
Yeah.
for some, we actually left it.
I think we leave it the way it is.
Let's,
Okay.
so we wanna leave it.
Aside
I think we wanna be consistent
Yeah.
between the zones, so okay, so
Alright.
let's leave that the way it is, and then.
And then, and some, scroll down, make sure I don't miss anything. When I sent also an memo of the irrigation infrastructure,
That's right.
which we talked about playing different zones. Fred sent his comments about that as well, about pushing that off to deal with later. And that is currently pasted at the bottom of this, so I guess the question. Do we wanna make a motion on whether or not to keep first of all, did you all guys gonna have a chance to read that and you want to comment on it? And then. You want to charge, but do you have any comments on that besides waiting?
I want to know why Fred wants to push it off.
Did you read my comments?
I did not.
Okay. Well.
I didn't get to those today.
I don't see it on.
It's in the email.
Is it section 8? No, it's on the 8.
It's actually.
It's on page 19.
Okay.
So I said, I think we should table the irrigation infrastructure protection ordinance until after we complete all the existing zones and ordinances for the following reasons. I think this requires some extensive discussion, which will take us sideways for a time and hinder our progress on priority work at hand. Any damage caused by one party to another is already protected by common law. So the damaged party can get restitution in civil court. Concern number 2. I'm concerned that the procedure would put our city engineer in a position of being a de facto expert witness or arbitration expert to educate a matter between two private parties that have traditional means available already to rectify civil matters. This may bring undue cost to the city along with potential liability. Other utilities should be included in an ordinance like this, not just a water conveyance utility. And then I suggested a more simplified way to address this in the short term is to include 2 of the requirements for subdivision applications. 1, developer must provide written documentation that impacted irrigation companies approve the developer's proposed plan. And then secondly, development shall not alter drainage patterns in a manner that increases downstream flooding.
Is that already part of SWPP stuff, anyone?
Those last 2?
Yeah.
I don't know, but they were in ordinance or in Tyson's language.
So now I want to ask Tyson, what is your response to Fred's suggestions?
I respect Fred's suggestions that we talked about on the phone, so I appreciate him talking it through with me. So, from my perspective, the reason we went through this, I had heard from Lisa that there was currently development that had ripped up someone's pipe or repiped an irrigation company's pipe and was affecting downstream flow. So that got that, well, I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
So that got it more high on my list, but I had already thought about this in this zone. There's already, the first thing that actually came to my mind were like people who historically flood irrigated. Often that flood irrigation overflows their property and goes on to the next one or into an existing drainage ditch. And in order to protect farmers from becoming liable, it's just like, it's always done with the neighbor's field. When the neighbor's field becomes a subdivision, then they're suddenly liable potentially for damages done to that subdivision. So there's that concern of just the farmer suddenly being.
So kind of a historical take on it.
Yeah, so that's been happening for like 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone's like, well, what's that ditch there for? We don't need that ditch anymore because we don't flood irrigate. But that's where water's been going,
Right.
in the season. And then anytime where a developer or someone just decides to infringe upon an existing like open ditch, for example, or repipe something, the downstream consequences for citizens and particularly farmers in our valley could be pretty egregious, right? So like if someone can't get water during a certain season or what have you. And then you could sue them, right? You could sue the person who infringed upon their easement, but that may take months, if not years.
Mhm.
And it's also coming from people who don't have necessary means to go against, well-patched developers.
But this ordinance wouldn't really change that. I mean, it doesn't give them any more of a speedy recovery of damages that was caused by another party.
So what this ordinance does do is it would just essentially it's a checkbox. So before someone got a subdivision permit or a building permit, when they go to get that application, it would say, did you reach out to the person who went to the irrigation to do across your water line? Have you ensured that you haven't trespassed on one of those things? So it's kind of like a check before they could get a permit, before the city allows them to start building.
Well, it does a lot more than that. It talks about submitting plans and having our city engineer review those plans and mitigation measures and so forth. And it would put our city engineer right in the middle of being an arbitrator.
So how else would you address the potential that Tyson's presenting?
Just by those two comments that I put in there. So check that off. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Check it off that they've got an agreement with the water utility. But if they don't follow up on that, if they do something wrong and cause damage to another party, then that's what the civil courts are for. It's not our city engineer to be the one in charge of that.
Could we approach it with kind of a mix where some of these pieces, like Fred suggested, are put in place and then develop this as an overlay that could follow just kind of broadly valley-wide?
Possibly. And this is where I guess I am in line with Fred, where it is there are a lot of nuances that we could hash out here, and it's possibly best to maybe pass the AB3 without this. I think it's a very important thing we do talk about at some point.
Yeah. So with
Can I
the-
make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just some guidance on this one. These are very good questions and important questions. Normally what I've seen in other cities, the irrigation system is a private system, right? It's owned by the irrigation company itself. They have their own rights to it. What we normally do in other cities is say you have to go and get a will serve letter from the irrigation company in order to get approved. That way we know that they have spoken to the irrigation company. The irrigation company is paying attention, hopefully, to what is happening and what they're proposing. And then the city gets something back from the irrigation company that is a will serve letter that explains what it is that they need And then the city doesn't get in the middle of it, right? We're not taking liability on, we're not trying to engineer their system, but we're insisting that they go and make sure that they're not going to tear out a historical ditch or possibly pipe something that shouldn't be piped. But really, it's the irrigation company that has the really the legal right and obligation to protect their own system. I think from a city standpoint, we just need to make sure that they go, they talk to them, and that they come back and we have proof that the irrigation company is fine with whatever's being proposed.
Corbin, is that called a will serve letter? I guess when I think of will serve, I think of the will serve letters that we use for our culinary water issues. And the irrigation, I hear what you're saying. And I can agree with you that having them at the initial application phase, having the property owner, whether that's a subdivision developer or an initial property, a just individual property owner, having them provide some sort of written documentation that they have consulted with the irrigation company, any impacted irrigation company, and the irrigation company has provided them with some written documentation that says they have met their needs, to assure that the irrigation company will not be impacted.
Yeah,
But it's not really that. It's more that understand that most of the time this is going to be a new development. You are taking an irrigation system that has historically been used for agricultural purposes, most likely a hayfield or something like that. We're now moving it into an intense, different type of a system where we're watering lawns. There may need to be different piping, pressure issues, pump houses, redesign of ditches, all sorts of different things. And so that's why it's called a will serve letter. Is you can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But the point here is the developer has to go talk to the irrigation company and say, hey, I'm proposing to alter your system. I'm proposing to do some things here. And the irrigation company says, well, let me tell you what it is that we're going to need. They bring that back to the city and we say, great, okay, irrigation company seems to be okay with that. We will move forward with their application. And no, we're not going to go in and try to engineer. If the irrigation company screws up and doesn't get what they need, that's not our fault, and we don't take the liability for it.
I guess the thing that I'm wondering though, when I hear a will serve letter, and maybe this is what you were saying, Lisa, too, is that the property owner is making an agreement that this irrigation company is providing them water. But
Yeah.
what about the cases where that has nothing to do with the development, that the development is getting water from somewhere else? We just want some kind of a check system that says they contacted the water company to ensure that anything surrounding their subdivision is not going to be disturbed by them.
Well, so in addition to that, when a developer wants to put in a subdivision and the tributaries that are involved with irrigation systems, we're talking about a ditch that may not be water that the subdivision cares about using. But what we're talking about is a ditch that carries the main flow of the irrigation water, carries that down and then splits off to other irrigation ditches so that the irrigation water can flow. And so the company what I think I'm talking about is if somebody wants to, for example, pipe a ditch and that carries irrigation water, that water, I don't think that's I don't consider that a will serve letter because they're not going to serve anybody. They don't want the developer or the homeowner to prevent them from being able to serve the
Yeah, so
water.
we're talking
to
semantics.
their
We're talking
homes.
semantics.
Oh, whatever.
Listen, wait, we're talking semantics. Call it an
Yeah.
engineering letter, call it an approval letter, call it
Okay.
something. It doesn't have to be a will serve letter, but the point is they have to talk to them and they have to issue us a letter saying, these are the
That
things
they
that
have
they're
met
going
the
to have to
needs
do.
of the,
Yes.
of any impacted irrigation system.
Yes.
Again, the sentence I had that was in there, somebody put Angela, or you put it in there. Developer must provide written documentation that the impacted irrigation companies approve of the developer's proposed plan.
That covers that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that
Great.
works. Yeah, that works.
Because my not legal research on the internet would say, as a city, if we say that a third party has to give someone permission before we grant them a building permit, that we could be liable because the irrigation company doesn't like the development.
No, that's not true. You have will serve letters all the time that are required in the development process.
Okay.
And so there's things that happen that's a very common thing all the way through. So no, that's not something that I would be concerned about.
All right.
Okay.
I will take that irrigation language out and motion that we pass 83 on to.
But I like leaving the sentence in that says they need to provide at the application.
Yeah.
At the time of application,
Is that your
they
number?
have to provide written documentation that they have
Yeah.
that they've
And
consulted
I would,
with
and I would
impacted.
say written approval, not documentation, written
Oh, written
approval.
approval, right,
From-
okay.
Yes.
And somebody with fast fingers write that in there? No.
Brian. You got that figured?
I've got something.
I got
This is showing up on
Uh,
everything.
Where would you want that, at the bottom, in,
Well, maybe.
Actually, that was in his,
Oh, okay.
We'll just snip it out.
I think that was a comment that I saw.
I just copied that.
Did you just delete it?
I just did it. Other than that,
Because
Command
what
Z.
we're-
I'll delete it.
Command
it makes sense.
Okay, it's that.
Okay.
Let's see.
I just have to try to remember the rest. Trying to get, oh, there we go, there it is, okay. The purpose. Okay, I think the purpose and authority is okay. Applicability, if we're gonna have it apply to subdivisions and I think individual. I think individuals for
New construction.
yeah, any new, for new, yeah,
New-
subdivision of applications, any permits for for subdivision or new construction. And then. Just. Do we want the definitions? We're talking about definitions. And then. The comment, the one sentence.
I'm confused now where we're at. I get four.
I think we're trying to reduce it so that
We want to add Fred's sentence.
the sentence that
Fred sent them.
Yeah.
it's. Well, I think it was my sentence.
It was
that-
just, cut out of the text of what you had.
But it was in a comment, another comment.
Like your comments.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's.
Even
not
with
in
that comment,
my-
I'll just say this doesn't protect farmers from that are historically flood irrigated, from potentially incurring liability when someone else decides to develop.
So let's make a note to address that when we come back to it.
Okay, so
Do you want to do it?
Brian. Can you help us with some language? I think the purpose and authority is okay. The applicability, I think we want it to apply to subdivisions and any new How about the same?
Yeah, why does that, just have to be?
Yeah, why, against, we don't want to just subdivision, any new building application, new applications. Brian, is that,
So my concern with that is, for a subdivision application. I mean, this is a lot of work. But for an individual lot owner, this is really a lot of work
well,
to produce this type of.
but it's already happening, and there are parcels of land that I'm aware of where the person bought the land, it's just still open land, and they want to pipe the ditch. And they just need to talk to the irrigation company and get a letter of approval, because the irrigation company needs to be able to say, your pipe's too small.
Yeah.
Or you're putting grates there in front of the pipe, and that's going to block debris, and it's going to plug up the pipe when the irrigation water has to flow through. And if the pipe fills up, that it's not gonna affect one person who's irrigating, it's gonna impact everybody downstream, and you don't get your water turned again for an entire week. And if they put a pipe in that has to be dug up and fixed, that's gonna take even longer. That could ruin their entire crop for the entire year, and that's a huge problem. And so I don't think it's unreasonable at all to say, if you wanna pipe your ditch, you have to go talk to if you wanna impact the ditches, you have
That's
to go.
required already in the subdivision ordinance.
But not just a subdivision, that could be that
But
could,
if an individual property owner just wants to pipe the ditch, they've got to work that out with the irrigation company.
okay, where do we have that? So it's an individual property owner that decides they want to pipe the irrigation ditch that goes through their property.
We don't have to. The irrigation company enforces that.
Right.
The city doesn't enforce that. It's not the city's ditch.
But
But can we?
can we require them to provide that before we give them?
But only if you're
Permission.
building.
The documentation.
If-
Does it have to be a subdivision, or can it be just a general house?
We
I don't like-
require it as a subdivision because the subdivision is typically putting in roads
Okay.
and other utilities that could potentially impact that irrigation easement.
Okay,
So that's the point where the subdivision process works to ensure the communication between the property owner and the
Okay.
water company is going on. Where it's just an individual property owner who is not seeking any other improvements to their property other than I'd like to pipe this ditch. That's between them and the irrigation company.
got it, okay,
Okay,
that makes more sense.
all right.
So
The
now,
city doesn't issue a permit so that the irrigation can come in and maintain their ditch by piping it. We don't permit
There are
that.
actually statutes that deal with that between private property owners and irrigation companies, so it's not.
Okay.
something we have
Okay.
control over.
And yes, that could potentially, if somebody pipes the ditch, it could potentially lead to downstream problems, but again, that's the water company's responsibility, not the city's.
Okay, but in a subdivision, we can require them to have.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right,
Yes,
okay,
but you're saying that's already in the subdivision.
That's already in the
So,
subdivision language.
I think for the purposes of this, let's just delete this.
okay,
Okay,
And I still think there's other shit that need to be addressed, but I think it's not.
okay.
okay,
You're making a motion.
I will make a motion to pass the 83 zone as it is presented minus the irrigation language we added. The irrigation infrastructure and agricultural drainage protection. And present it for public comment.
I'll second that motion.
For Brian to format and.
For Ryan, the format as needed, and then send to public comment.
And I will still second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Okay, All right, okay, all right, let's take a look at subdivision ordinance.
Let's see.
There's something you'd like to present on this, Brian?
Do we have that one? Did you put that one?
Yep.
Is that one out there? Mhm.
There's only one comment by us.
That one was really recent. I didn't have a lot of time to look at that one because he was working on all the others. She's working hard.
It's more kind of general process and procedure, I think.
Yeah, this is pretty procedural stuff. It's relatively standard from community to community. Some of the modifications that, based on comments that my staff and I received is, making sure that, that water providers who are providing the will serve letter also actually have the water to back up their
And
service agreement.
is that what we're referring to as wet water versus from
Yes.
oil served
that's
water?
Looking for
Yes.
evidence of water rights that, they show that they have the water
That's actually available.
legally within their possession.
Yeah.
Now again, even holding the water right itself, is not necessarily the same as having it in a tank somewhere that they can charge a pipe with.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, we're looking for something of a slightly more substantial guarantee than a letter that says, oh, well, I'm working on a water transfer
Right.
with Weaver Basin Water right now.
Right.
And it's the intent is to find where the water is coming from, not just their assertion that
they're working on
that
it.
they have it on paper.
Okay. And does it need to show that if they use that water, it isn't impacting the water? I'm probably not using the right words. Another water company. Is that
So-
part of that?
That's hard to prove.
Yeah.
For example, concerns that have been raised as well, they want to put a well in and it's too close to my well, so that means my well is going to have less water in it. From a logical, on the surface, that looks like a very logical agreement, but it's very difficult to prove that one well is going to,
But I think it's been proven in
Well-
Oak Valley. I think we've had those issues before where
it's hard to prove before the fact.
Yeah.
It's
Can
hard.
I jump in here real quick and just kind of give just a really quick explanation? When a developer is coming and needs culinary water for his or her system, there's two ways to get it. One is to go to a public provider who may have sufficient water rights available in their sources and they can purchase from the public provider. And so if that's the case, you get a will serve letter and the public provider says, yes, we will provide this water and there will be sufficient water for them. Okay, that's a will serve letter. The second way is the public provider says, no, we don't have enough water, but the developer has irrigation shares or another source or water right that they're going to turn over to the public provider. The public provider is going to own that, and there's going to be a change application that allows that water to be taken out of either a well or whatever source, a spring, whatever the public provider has. And so that's the common process there. And in this process, we want to make sure that they're not just working on it, because there's been some scenarios where the developer comes in at the beginning and says, I'm working on my water. And 3 years later, they're into their application several $1 million and come to find out they didn't have their water.
Right.
And then we end up going, oh, whoops. And they go, well, you led us through the primrose path here. And we're $2 million into this. You should have told us no upfront. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to
Okay.
tell them no upfront and say, you will come to us with a will serve letter from a public provider, or I guess you've got private providers
We
there
don't have
too.
any public providers here.
I'm
We
sorry,
have
what?
0 public providers, they're all private providers.
Private, okay, so whatever it is,
Privately owned companies, but they're
They're
considered.
considered a public provider, okay, thank you.
so, and they will need to show at the time of application that they have their water rights and that they have worked through and that, you know, they have that worked out before we move forward. We cannot go on speculation that they will somehow, some way figure this out. If you don't have water, you don't apply, you don't move forward.
Okay. And Brian, you and Corbin are working on that language?
I thought I had something in here the other day, but I don't see it, but I mean, essentially added, they demonstrate possession of sufficient water to back up the will serve.
Yeah, it's on page 4.
Is that where I put it?
Yeah.
Okay. It all starts to look like a blur.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, page 4 is a little bit different. Page 3 and page 4 are addressing an issue of irrigation wells or any well needs to seek needs to notify the city of a permit to
Okay. Yeah, that is.
to drill. So they need to register their well against, and we're looking at the issue that's been raised of people having
Lots of little shallow
unregulated
wells that
and
are not.
unpermitted wells around the community, and we want to make sure that we don't let that continue.
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
So Lisa, just,
domestic water rights are required for all subdivided lots. Required water rights shall be as approved by the State Division of Water Quality in conformance with the administrative code. I need to go look that up. It's from.
And does it say that they have to demonstrate in that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So-
Sorry.
a couple of meetings ago, you had talked about, right to serve as opposed to proof of wet water. Is that what we're talking
I
about here?
think that we are, I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. That we're getting done what we had envisioned.
Mhm.
I think so, that we want that proof of water. That they already have those water rights that are available to them. Rather than just a will serve letter, and those will have to be demonstrated. At the application process before their application is complete. Is that correct, Corbin?
Yes, yes, and if you want to, you can, I mean, Brian and I can work on just, I think the language is generally there. I could make some edits to this. He and I can work on that. And then forward it. So I guess if we want to stay on the time frames that we're talking about, again, you could give us permission to, you just basically told me what you want. I just need to get the language in there that is substantive. You know, you could forward it on. I'll make those edits before we release it to the public, and then you could have your public thing. You can do whatever you want, but that would be what would have to happen if we want to keep it on the track that we're currently on.
And I don't know if this one was necessarily,
So,
I don't remember that this one was necessarily the one that we wanted on track to go out to public comment now. I know we wanted the maps, we wanted the general plan, which is in question now, that and AB3, FB3 and FR3 for sure.
Fair enough. So if this one isn't, then yeah, then maybe just give us some direction to work on this, and we can bring it back to you.
so Corbin, I have a question, and this is just me.
Yeah.
It is the word proof, is that a legal word that is a little more substantial than documented source?
I mean,
Or, again, are we talking semantics?
Yeah, it's kind of semantics. It's all the same. I mean, the intention here is they have to come in and demonstrate they have wet water out of a source that can deliver it, not just paper water that says, well, I
Okay.
own water, but you can't divert it from their spring or whatever. And we may
Okay,
at some point, I can come in and give some training on water loss. So you guys, it's kind of a complex area, but I can help you to understand that. We don't have the luxury right now of doing that, but I'm happy to do so in the future.
my gut though, from the discussion is that what you just said, the proof of wet water is somehow in the wording. So that
Yes.
there's no way of backing out and
Yes.
saying,
Well-
I have this paper, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly, they have to have, and there's steps, Brian and I can work on this language. I think that if that's what we do, we'll bring it back to you, give us a chance and a crack at this, we'll bring it back, and then hopefully we can get this one done in the next meeting.
That
Okay,
sounds
sounds
great. That sounds great.
All
Thank you. Well, we have 5 minutes left, or do we want to, address design standards briefly? Brian did send us, that draft. Take a
There's a
quick-
whole bunch of them there. One recommendation would be we break them out into small chunks
Okay,
I say we pick it up next week.
and then take a look at them
okay,
in the next meeting or two. I mean, these, especially with some of the more controversial items like
Okay.
accessory dwelling units, short-term rentals, things like that, those may take longer to come to a consensus on,
okay.
or at least come to a majority.
I think that sounds fair, and I would say those, we'll start, when we meet tomorrow to revise and plan our next agendas, we'll have those on there, and then bring it back, we had a couple of things that with the general plan that we're gonna have to bring back, after our discussion today, so I guess we have 3 minutes, do I hear a motion to call good or?
1 second, so on the general plan, what do we introduce? We
What
did
is-
that then, 'cause
I know.
mission vertical.
That is mission critical.
I think some people were wanting to reinsert that last chapter.
Oh, that's what it was, the county,
So the way you moved it forward last week was including that language. So if you want to leave that in there, it's already there. So
however, the discussion, yeah, but when I looked at it, there are contradictions in that language.
it discusses mining.
Right, there are contradictions in the general plan, there are redundancies that could potentially be out. If there are, I don't think anybody really had a chance to look at that carefully enough to say today, but I noticed I did too today, but I noticed that there were there was language that conflicted what we have in the general plan. I noticed that there are some redundancies, and I noticed that, what I found, Brian, said there were some things that were perfect.
One quick note.
Can I just make one quick?
Minutes, we removed chapter 9 from that. That was one piece that was
Did it get
removed.
removed?
It was removed because, and that was partly due to the discussion about it not being required for the city and only for the county.
So the question is, who has grievances and who has to, who's gonna make the
I think
modification?
Corbin had a comment, so.
I just need to clarify one thing here. The tricky part is, and I'm not exactly sure, but it sounds to me like you approved something last week and you could take action on that last week. You cannot change that in this meeting because we haven't noticed it up. So whatever you did last week stands.
Yeah.
And so if you said we approve it and we want to either take the language out or keep it in, that's what needs to happen. And it needs to be released simply because that's what you approved last week and you can't alter that. Now, remember, if you do that,
Okay, so,
I'm fine, sorry, but I think we approved it and this is a placeholder in the plan for roughly just a matter of months. And I think the edits that we're talking about are things that are just cleaning up, it's not substantial.
agree.
Content, so I would like to just continue with our approval last week, let them clean it out.
That's all we
And get
can,
it out
yeah.
to the public.
And
And remember, everybody, that you're gonna have a public hearing and then you're gonna make your final recommendation. And if there is additional language you want to put in, you can bring it in at that time. And, it's so you're not losing the opportunity to talk about that or get the language in.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Brings to the city.
Okay,
I agree.
perfect.
Motion to table the last two items, so those aren't hanging out on the agenda, 7 and 8. Because you guys didn't take any action on them.
Oh, yeah.
You tabled it, to make a motion. to
D
table
and
those
E.
three. There you go.
D, which letters are they?
D and E, C, D and E actually. Definition, subdivision ordinance.
I motion to table, items D and E for discussion.
C, D and E.
D and E discussion at our next meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
See, she's great. I didn't know to do that last time.
I motion to
I think
adjourn
you're
this
great
meeting.
too, though.
I think.
Lots of, all in favor? Aye.
It's like 12.
How are you?
Well, good.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yes.